Hello, and today I'm going to show you how to make planner tabs in Adobe Illustrator for digital planners. Before we get started, I am working in the Essentials workspace, so if you're not working in that, that is what I'm working in. The main tabs that we're going to be needing are the Properties tab, so if you do not have this open, you can go Window and then find Properties. And I have the basic toolbar up at the moment, but if you're working with an advanced toolbar, meaning you've got a lot more tools showing here, that is completely fine. But we will just be using tools you can find on the basic toolbar. So let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is create a rectangle. So the shortcut for that is M, or it just looks like a rectangle on your toolbar. And I'm just going to draw a rough size for a rectangle. So this is what I'm looking at here, and then I'm going to cut it. So I'm going to go to the scissors tool, or the shortcut for that is C. So I like to call it the cut tool because it cuts paths and the shortcut for it is C, so it just makes sense. But it'll be hiding underneath the eraser tool. I'm just going to cut off this bottom path here. So I'm going to click and then click on these anchor points. And then I'm going to go to the Move tool, so the shortcut for that is V, and I'm just going to delete this path. Now our shape doesn't look any different having gotten rid of that path, but you'll see when we hover over it, that blue outline doesn't extend to the bottom. And when we go into outline mode, which is Command Y or Control Y, like this, you'll see we do not have the bottom line for that path at all. So I'm going to duplicate this. So to do that, I'm going to hold Alt or Option, click and drag on it, and that will just make a copy of it. I'm going to flip it like so, and then I'm going to remove this path here. So C again for the cut tool, click on that anchor point, and then I'm just going to delete it. I'll just pop that there. I also don't really need the rest of this path, so I'm also going to cut it again. So C, and I'm just going to cut there. Now the reason why I did this rather than just using the pen tool to extend the path is just so that everything is a little bit more exact and simpler for this tutorial. So I have my path here. I'm going to duplicate it again, so Alt or Option, and I'm also going to hold Shift down to make sure that it stays in line. So Option and Shift, or Alt and Shift, and then I'm just going to go until I see that intersect. So now this is the shape I'm working with. I'll select all of it by clicking and dragging, and then I'm going to use the shortcut Command J or Control J. So now this is one shape together. If your paths aren't totally lined up, you may not have joined it properly. If you saw very briefly some dots flashed up at all of my corners, that means it has joined correctly. So I'm going to go out of outline mode, so Command Y, and you'll notice my shape doesn't actually visually look any different, but the paths are there. Now I'm going to switch to the Direct Selection tool, which is this white tool underneath the Move tool, or the shortcut for it is A. And you'll see those dots pop up again here. So these are going to control my corners, and they'll allow me to curve my corners for this design. Now, if I just click and drag on the one dot, it's going to do all of them at once. And I may not necessarily want it to do all of them at once, but you'll see that we've already got that tab appearance now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on these two top ones. So I'm holding Shift to click on multiple, and you'll see these ones aren't selected. They look a bit different. Oops, function, there we go. So if I click on this one, hold Shift to click on this one, you'll see this one's highlighted blue and this one's not. So when I click and drag, just those two are going to be affected. And I can do the same for these bottom two. Click on one, hold Shift, click on the other, and I'll pull outward. And when it goes red, that means it can't go anymore. So I'll just tweak that a little bit. So find a shape I'm happy with. And then I'm going to cut it again. I'm going to use the shortcut C, cut there and there at those anchor points. And I'll just get rid of that excess path. And then I'm going to join this. So I'm going to use the pen tool for that. So P for the pen tool. Now when I hover over that bottom anchor point, it's going to show with a line on my cursor. And that means it's going to continue the path. So if I click on that, and then I go over here and you'll see it snaps to it. And there's a little circle by my cursor. That means I'm going to end the path. So V to get back to the move tool. And I have my tab shape. I'm very happy with it. I'll just shrink it down a little bit. Something like that. And you want to get your corners all sorted out before you're at this stage, because when I hit A, you'll notice that I can still control some things, but others I can't. So we just want to make sure that we still want to control everything. I'm going to go back to my move tool, not my direct selection tool. And then I'll just rotate it. So I'm holding shift and then the corner, you can see I get a little arrows on my cursor and hold shift to rotate it. I'll just pop it over here. And I like to overlap the ends just here a little bit. Now I'm going to add a drop shadow to it. As you can see here, this one has a drop shadow. And then what that does is you can see it on my tabs. So I'm going to go Effects, Stylize, and find Drop Shadow. And I've got these settings here already. For the X offset, I won't have an offset. I'll click OK. And I can just delete that one now. That was just for a size reference. I'm going to hold Option or Alt and Shift, drag it down a little bit. Now I'm going to send it to back. So the shortcut for that is Command Shift and then the left square bracket, or Control Shift left square bracket. And then I'm going to choose a color for it. So let's make this one blue. We'll do the same thing. Send to back. You can also right click it, find Arrange, and then you've got all of the options for arranging it. Let's make you green. And you can line these up to be a little bit more exact when you're properly doing this. And then the last step I do is I place a white rectangle over my canvas. So shortcut M for our rectangle tool. And then I'll just drag that over. Now we want it to be white, so we'll just pop that to white. And we want to add a drop shadow to this. So Effects, Stylize, Drop Shadow. And we'll turn off the Y and put one on X. And so that is what we're looking at there. If you want to preview this without seeing any of the excess around your canvas, we can go into Trim View. So we go View, the top here, and find Trim View. Now this doesn't actually have a shortcut. I have assigned a shortcut for myself. So if we click on Trim View, then we can see what it looks like perfectly cropped. To get out of Trim View, you can go View and just deselect it. Or I like to just switch to the Artboard tool, which is Shift-O, and that also just gets you out of it really easily. So that is how we make planner tabs in Adobe Illustrator. If you like that video, make sure to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you again soon.